Hi, this is a Tuesday afternoon, August 5th update on the search results for big data on the Google US search engine. As always, the thoughts in this video are just mine, and in making decisions, consult an SEO professional or your trusted SEO team for the best information for your situation. All right, I'd like to get into this right away. For those of you who don't understand the technology behind this, we're not going to go over this today, but what we're using is search engine modeling technology combined with some machine learning to build sort of think of it as like a Google simulator in a way. So these models allow us to determine what are the biggest statistical differences between certain sites in one given specific search engine result page. And it also can break down what families of algorithms are the biggest statistical gaps. And this gives us a little clue into why things are ranking the way they are. So it starts to peel back that onion of that Google black box. So basically, we have three sites in this model that we're studying right now. 1, 2, 3. On the target search engine, which is Google US, they are respectively number 1, 2, and 5. We're going to be looking at IBM. I thought this was really interesting. I just was looking through this and wanted to point something out. So we're seeing definitely an improvement on IBM. They've back on July 6th, 2020, they were about 60% off of the leader here. And on July 28th, they are now roughly about only 30%. So they've cut the delta in half. How did they do that? So we're gonna go in and use Market Brew, this search engine modeling technology, to understand a little bit more about why that is. All right. So before we get into some of the actionable intel, one of the things that this Market Brew conversation report, this is just an AI generated report. It's telling us the bias and weight settings on the Market Brew model, which are essentially these placeholders. Think of Market Brew as sort of like a standard search engine it's got all the features of Google, but it doesn't quite understand what the bias and weight settings are until it performs this thing called particle swarm optimization. And essentially, it takes this standard model and turns it into a hyper-calibrated model. And these settings, these bias and weight settings, can be tracked from 1 month to the next. So when Google actually changes these algorithms, you get an idea of what parts of the model are getting more emphasis or less emphasis. And here we're actually seeing over the board, a demotion of almost all the signals except for one signal. It says right here, the meta title. And so this meta title has come alive in this search engine result page. And you're going to see this is fueling the rise of or actually we can say the consolidation of the top 10 results here. And that's because the meta title is giving a little bit more weight to the overall score. And this cool Market Brew model actually tipped us to this. So this is really cool. When you go into the trend analysis, you're going to kind of see what we just went over. But below here, you're going to see from each perspective of each site. I'm going to skip the first two sites. I'm going to go down to IBM. Let me see here. All right. So they're only leading in a few areas in the model. There's actually a number of areas where they're getting kind of clobbered. And so the system is actually breaking this down, and you can look at some of the previous videos to go into how this is actually being calculated. All this is tied back to the actual traffic models in this search engine model. So you can actually see, as you're changing things, these will change along with them. But this is telling us where the biggest statistical gaps are in the model. These are the first three. This is sort of like the high level, right? So you have your semantic areas. These are the content of all the content algorithms. And content algorithms actually include link signals. So it's not just content. So there's other things that has to do with that side of the model. You also have the link flow focus, which is sort of the internal signaling model. So if you want to think of it as like an internal PageRank graph, right? So that's the link flow, and then the domain rank, which is essentially a subdomain link graph. It gives us the sort of the backlink structure and as a granular signal. All right, so these three areas, and you can kind of see that the biggest area right here is actually what's called the link flow focus for IBM, and followed by the semantic area and the domain rank. So each one of these, we can actually go into each one of these. For instance, for the semantic area, we can actually see that there's one specific algorithm here called the market focus basket, which determines the meaning behind this page. It's sort of like the search engine's way of understanding what that page is about. And so it uses content, it uses the citation structure around it, There's an algorithm that determines this, and that algorithm was pointed out by MarketBrew during this last snapshot. And it has identified that both the model's meta title bias weight settings have gone up, and also the biggest statistical gap between IBM and the leader here, which I think is Wikipedia, is this market focus basket. So they can actually start to compare, if they're the SEO team at IBM, they can go down into their MarketBrew tools and actually compare their market focus algorithm, whatever algorithm this happens to be, right? This applies to any result of this. It can be any part of the model that we're talking about here. But this specific market focus basket algorithm can be compared between the leader, the outperformer, and by the way, the outperformer might not be the number one site in this model. It could be another site, right? We want to look at the outperformers for each part of the model separately. And so they can compare themselves to the outperformer and understand what they're doing and why they're scoring so well in this part of the model, why they're not. And essentially, it comes down to basically they're just going to copy the leader, right? There's improvement that can be made. Obviously, that's a good thing. But the first thing you want to do is just copy them, right? Do something similar to them so that you're not having this huge gap between you and your competitor in this part of the search engine. So this is essentially pointing us to the semantic area. And then the link flow, we can kind of go in here and look at the link flow distribution of IBM's site. You can see that it's very flat. They get away with it because they have a very large domain rank, a lot of link flow coming into that subdomain. So they don't really have to have a very uniform looking distribution, which is what we like to see. But the flat link flow distributions is hurting IBM for this specific landing page, and it's just going to break down. It's saying that this specific page that's ranking in the model is not even in the top 10 of the link flow distribution. It's actually number 170. We can go look at that here in a second, but 170 down in the link flow distribution. It's only receiving 0.2% of all the internal linking from all the other pages in the site. And this is supposed to be a very big landing page, right? So this is we're talking about big data, right? So they're competing against Amazon and think of all the big data companies in this market, right? So this is a very, very, very important landing page, and they've signaled to their search engine via the way that they've set up their internal linking that this is the 170th important page in the site. Maybe that is true. Maybe that is they're going after so many markets. This is just another one of their markets they're going after. But I would think not. I think big data is such a big thing right now. I don't know IBM's business. Obviously, I have to look at their business model to figure that out. But I don't read their earnings reports and stuff. But this is actually a specific area where they could easily double, triple, quadruple, even more than that. Their essentially their ranking power that gets assigned to this sort of this page, right? So every page gets what we call in MarketBrew, it basically says it's a link flow value. And so what we're doing here is we're seeing how we can structure the internal linking by going in and putting a little bit more internal linking to this page, really just focusing on the top of the site of the link flow distribution. So basically the top 5% of the pages. Look at one of those pages and start adding a couple of links to this page. And iteratively in MarketBrew, you can actually recrawl the site and it'll actually update the model and everything. So you'll see this go up from 170 to 120 to 80 to 40, whatever. You can get it all the way up to number 1 if you want. So and so you can literally take a page that had no link flow value because it really wasn't receiving any direct backlinks to it. It was just getting the link flow from the other pages in the site, right? So from all that internal incoming link flow to the subdomain. And all of a sudden, quadruple the link flow on that page. And we've seen a lot of companies that have just taken off because of this. So this applies whether you're IBM or a startup company. You get your link flow right, and you can have a dramatic increase on that part of the model. So that is the big gap, right? We go up here and look at the model saying, hey, this is the biggest gap, right? Like if you fix this gap, this is going to be the majority of between you and the number 1 position for this keyword. So them fixing this would be very, very critical And it can just be one or two links on the right pages, right? I mean, one link on the homepage, maybe. I'm not sure. The whole point of this model is that you can literally add a link, check it, see what happens in the model. Is it enough? Is the margin of error in the model you think is going to be enough for it to actually work in Google? No. Okay, add another link. Okay, now we have enough buffer here. We feel like this is probably going to overperform over the next 3 to 4 months, and we watch that. And we watch the rank trackers, and we confirm back to the model when we're sure that it worked. So that's essentially what it's saying is how to get more ranking power to that page. There's also a thing that's pointing out, it's saying, hey, you already have ranking power, but you're wasting a lot of that ranking power, right? So almost 44 cents on the dollar of every backlink that you get to this page is going to be wasted off of these demotions, right? These penalties. And the system actually, this conversation report, it's really cool. This is all AI generated. You can go in here and just read this like a report, like a human put this together. So it's telling us if you were to go to the scorecard summary, right, you can click on these scorecards up here. Or is it here? It's on the simulation page. But basically, you can go to these scorecards and look at all the penalties, all the families of algorithms that are affecting this page, which could be representative of a lot of pages in your site, right? It could be like, one of a million pages on this part of your site. So this is telling us right here the families of algorithms that are essentially the most offended, right? So these are the things that are flagged and part of that 44% discount on the final net total link flow. By the way, if you look at the query scoring, which MarketBrew uses the Lucene query parser, one of the scoring variables is the net link flow, right? The net total link flow. So it doesn't look at the gross total link flow, all the scored linking, all the sort of the modern PageRank calculation. It actually looks at the net link flow after the penalties for each individual page. That's the signal. So what we're seeing here is the ability to look and see, okay, maybe I can't get any more links to this page. Maybe my legal team saying, no, don't do this. You can't be doing this. Whatever it happens to be, you have another option where you can actually make up almost 2 times the amount of ranking power on this page by simply eliminating these penalties, right? So you can go into this duplicate content, keyword stuffing penalty, an outgoing paid link marker here that was triggered, some duplicate market focus. So you can see that there's some duplication problems here, and there's also some over optimization problems. All of this stuff here is we're able to come in here and if you have a MarketBrew account, you can actually go in and see all of these algorithms and start comparing you against the outperformer. It'll literally, side by side, you can bring them up and see why they're outperforming in that part of the search engine model. And then once you do that, you can either just copy the outperformer or take that as a lesson and apply that to other parts of your site. Change your template, whatever you happen. If you have 10 million pages on your site and you have like maybe 50 templates, you just change the templates instead of 50 million pages. But essentially, what you're doing is you're eliminating all of this ranking power that you're kind of throwing away because in this case, you have duplicate content. So you can actually see this page and what other page in the site is duplicate with it and what's the overlap and all the words they'll be highlighted on the page. So all that stuff is in that MarketBrew tool, but you can see that obviously IBM has a couple options here. So if they're kind of pulled down politically and can't make any change to the internal linking structure, or maybe they just practically can't right now, then they could at least come in here and potentially make some changes here to either adding some content, or I don't know what this is. We'd have to investigate this, right? That's a whole other video. But all these algorithms here are pointed out immediately as the biggest part of the search engine model that is statistically different between IBM, in this case, the context of IBM, we're looking at the context of IBM here, between IBM and its outperformer. So, and then it goes into some other areas here, right? So this market focus basket algorithm, this is the next area, right? The semantic area. If we go back up here, we remember this, that was the biggest thing, the link flow, right? The next biggest thing is semantic area. And of all the semantic algorithms, this market focus basket algorithm is the biggest statistical difference. So it's obviously segueing into this and showing you both the IBM market focus basket and the outperformer. So you can start to see that IBM it's really, this is the difference between this. It's pretty significant. You can actually come in here and start to look at why the weighting, this internal linking weighting, is a little bit better. I think if you do SEO, if you're an SEO professional, you already know that, as far as internal linking structure, Wikipedia is going to be pretty hard to beat. But you can see the difference. This is a good flagpole to measure the distance between perfection for IBM's team. So IBM can come in here and look at this, look at the market focus basket algorithm, figure out exactly, is it a content problem? It sounds like it is, because we know also that there's a duplicate content problem somewhere on this page. So it's probably related to that. It also could be related to the way that they link to this page or others link to this page. So there's some other things in that market focus algorithm that's again a whole nother video that we can go into. But I just wanted to point that out because I thought that was really interesting. IBM has made some gains, and it wasn't really, I don't think it is anything that they did. I think actually the meta title, the bias on that part of the model got weighted higher this month. And you can see that there's, they've got a contraction here, and this delta is closing in, and there's some traffic up for bid here for this keyword. So, anyways, that's it for today. If you like this kind of video, please subscribe and click that bell for notification whenever we get a new video out. I try to make one of these a day. If I get a little bit excited, we'll get into some other areas of just talking about search engines in general. I do a couple podcasts, 2 or 3 a year. So we'll talk about that a little bit later. But anyways, so that's it for today. Hope you enjoy the rest of your evening. If you haven't checked out this tool, Market Brew, it's really, really cool. Disclaimer, I'm heavily involved in it, but this is a pretty neat tool to kind of just start to look at markets in general and start to uncover exactly what's happening in these search engines. Try to get a little bit better signal into what we need to do. So that's it. All right. Have yourself a wonderful evening, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye.